Well, ladies and gentlemen, he's done it again. The face of boxing. The one, the only, Tank Davis, Gervonta Davis, with a knockout in the 8th round against Frank Martin. Tank, 14-month layoff, comes back to the ring, and he starts where he finished back in 2023 as he defeats Frank Martin with an 8th round knockout. Tank, man, it was really vintage Tank in a fight that, the first 4 to 6 rounds, the first half of the fight, you're thinking, Frank's doing really good. Frank Martin is boxing well, he's moving. Heck, he's catching Tank with some good shots. But when it gets to that second half of the fight, there's nobody in the world that's better than Gervonta Davis. He's 30-0 now with 28 knockouts. Gervonta Davis, what a performance. And we're going to talk about it right here on the Never Drop podcast. Make sure you hit that subscribe button, like, and comment below who you want Tank to fight next. But back to the fight. Gervonta Davis, done it again. And let's walk through this one. Back to the weigh-in. Real quick, Frank looked awful. Frank got in at like 134.5. His eyes looked awful. Honestly, I was like, okay, that's a huge sign. And not only was it a sign about how much Frank looked bad, Tank came in at 133. Tank was locked in for this fight. Coming in at 133, you knew what time it was. Even with the long layoff, Tank was in the gym ready for this fight, as you expected. Okay, right before the fight, a huge red flag for me was Frank Martin not warming up. Every time they cut to him in the locker room, he was either sitting on the couch, laying on the couch, just watching the TV, chilling. While Tank, they'd show, he was warming up. It really made no sense to me. And in the fight previous, which Benavidez fought, he went the distance. I don't know if he didn't want to get too warm, kind of overwork. Before he got in the ring, Tank said in his post-fight interview, heck, I kind of went cold because I thought it was going to end early. I thought David Benavidez was going to get the knockout. So I wonder if that was the play. But that really was a huge red flag to me. But they eventually get to the ring. They make their ring walks. They get to the ring. Frank's doing a really good job moving. Those first 2 to 3 rounds, Frank was doing a good job. He was moving, and he was actually splitting the guard of Gervonta Davis a lot. Tank was taking a solid amount of punishment. Not punishment, but he was getting clipped with some of these shots from Frank. I mean, if you actually look at their faces by the end of the fight, you would have thought, heck, maybe the roles were even reversed because Tank's face he had some bruises on it, while Frank honestly looked pretty cleaned up. He didn't look like he had any bruises. Obviously, Tank's going to catch you at one time and put you to sleep. But Tank was taking a solid amount of punishment. Frank, he had some good counters. He was splitting the guard of Tank. He was moving. You could tell early that anytime Tank was getting to Martin was going to tie him up early. Tank was walking him down. And something that I just don't understand was Frank's game plan to just sit in the corner and wait for a big shot. He kind of alluded to this in the post-fight interview when he was like, I was kind of playing on the ropes, waiting to develop for a big shot to happen, but I just couldn't find a time to hit Tank. I don't understand how that's your game plan. You want to sit on the ropes and wait for Tank? He was just target practice by the 4th, 5th round. Tank's like, okay, this guy's, I'm going to hit him a few times. He's going to escape. I'll let him escape. I'll let him move around. And Tank was like, I want him to move around and become tired. And that's what Tank was doing perfectly. Okay, yeah, you're hitting me. You're getting some shots off. Tank, again, as great as a power puncher he has a very underrated chin, as none of them really seemed to bother him. Maybe one kind of backed him up. Okay, that's a good shot. But nothing really bothered Tank, it seemed. Tank was taking the shots and letting Frank Martin kind of tire himself out. For me, I thought the first 3 rounds did go to Frank, but then I thought the next 3 went to Tank. It was either 3-3 or 4-2 with Frank Martin winning after 6, but I thought it was a close fight. I thought the broadcast was kind of leaning Frank just because they were surprised, hey, he's actually been able to hit Tank a little bit, but I thought it was 3-3 or 4-2 in favor of Frank after 6, but you could tell Tank was turning up. Tank was getting the timing down, he was letting his hands go a little more, and Frank was slowing down. I talked about in my preview how I thought the body was going to be something huge in this fight. Tank started going to the body more in the 6th and the 7th, slowing down Frank Martin. You could kind of see Tank would hit him in the body, and Frank immediately would kind of shuffle away, kind of put his hands down. Like, you could tell the body shots were affecting him a little. And I think it's all part of the game plan. I thought he was going to get him with a body shot and then take him the rest of the way. But Tank of the team knew, hey, he's going to tire himself out. He's going to run around. I'm going to start hitting him with body shots. Those hands are going to come down, and I'm going to do my damage. And come the 8th round, Frank Martin's on the ropes. After he's doing that in the 7th round, Frank is just like not throwing. Frank would start, and Calvin said it in the corner. Hey, first 30 seconds, he's good. The rest of the round, it's yours. Frank would come out, throw some good combinations. You'd go, oh, okay, this is pretty good. And then Tank would start to tee off. It just looked like Frank was tiring himself out. Come the 8th round, Frank's on the ropes. I don't know what he's doing on the ropes. Again, I just don't understand the strategy. I don't think Derek James necessarily wanted him on the ropes the entire time like he was. He's on the ropes. Tank hits him with an uppercut. Ask Leo Santa Cruz about Tank's uppercut. The uppercut gets him. He's dazed. Tank finishes him off with a straight left hand. Frank hits the ground. Tank is already up, celebrating on the ropes. The ref, Harvey Dock, hadn't even started the count on Frank Martin. Tank knew what it was. They kind of panned out the camera. You could see, I think Harvey Dock was at 7 or 8. There was no way Frank Martin was getting up. Tank Davis does his backflip, and again, he's the king at 135. Frank talked about, I got too comfortable, something Derek James was telling him in the quarter, don't do. You do not get comfortable with this guy. You have to stay uncomfortable on the move. Don't let your semi-success fool you. I just don't think the ropes was a great strategy, and he let Tank walk him down the entire fight. The entire fight from the first time the bell rung. Tank was walking Frank down. He was taking some shots, all part of the plan. He was walking him down into the corner, hit him a few times, okay, get his timing. By the 5th, 6th round, Tank was just getting the timing, and you knew it was only a matter of time. Frank, he's a good fighter. He put up a good effort. I just don't think anyone beats Tank Davis at 135. Heck, maybe not even at 140. The power he has, the IQ, the footwork, the boxing abilities. I really just don't know if anybody can beat Tank Davis at 135/140. Tank even said, hey, 14 months off, I was a little rusty, which is scary. His rusty is a lot of other fighters' best nights in their career. Tank put on an absolute show. And what's next for him? A lot of talk has been about a Lomachenko fight in November, a fight that would be incredible. I truly think Lomachenko, not Shakur, but Lomachenko, is probably the toughest opponent potentially for Tank Davis. I think even at 36, Loma is such a good opponent. The footwork, the speed, the Ukrainian will not to give in, not to give up. I think he's probably Tank's toughest opponent, and I want to see that fight so bad. If they can get that between PBC and Top Rank for November, oh, what a fight. But I do think we'll see Tank back in the ring. He's not going to take another long layoff. He doesn't want to do that. But at 135, he's got to go to Top Rank. It's got to be Shakur or Lomachenko, or he's got to move up to 140, which I don't see him doing right now. He's talked about the hit list, 6-7 fights, one's knocked off, Frank Martin. No one left on PBC. No one left at PBC at 135. Lomachenko or Shakur next. It's unbelievable what this guy does. Watching him, I know he has haters. Even if you hate the dude, you gotta respect what he does. One of the best fighters in the world. The face of boxing, Tank Davis, destroys everything he sees. He's your favorite fighter's favorite fighter, and he did it again with an 8th round knockout of Frank Martin. Gervonta Tank Davis is back, and he's the king at 135, and with some future bouts that look crazy, I think we'll see Tank Davis go up a notch, see what he really has in his bag of tricks, because we haven't seen the best of him yet, says his coach, Coach Calvin. Either way, what a night for boxing, a great card. I think I'll have a separate video on David Benavidez. Didn't get the stoppage, but he looked solid at his 175 debut. I'm excited to see what he has next. Of course, I'm excited to see what Tank has next. The face of boxing does it again. Make sure you subscribe to the Never Drop Podcast. Like, comment below who you want Tank to fight. If you're listening on Spotify, Apple Podcast, anywhere for your podcast, follow the podcast. I got you and your boxing coverage all down. Subscribe on YouTube, the Never Drop Podcast. Tank Davis does it. An 8th round knockout of Frank Martin. The face of boxing is back. It's been the Never Drop Podcast. That's all I got for you. Peace. I'm out.